My name is Fearless Fred Kennedy. I work at a radio station, 102.1 The Edge. I also work on a television channel called Teletoon, where we play cartoons. And dude, I'm totally jacked to introduce our next guest, because I've been a fan of this guy for years. I've had arguments over the spelling of his last name. Ron Perlman, everybody.
Thank you.
All right. Welcome to Chicago.
Now what we're going to do is I'm going to ask a few questions, and I'm sure you all have a very important thing you need to ask. So we're going to throw things over to the crowd. I've got my wranglers. I'm going to let them pick who gets to ask the first questions. Is that good?
Yeah. Hell yeah!
Thank you, buddy.
There's always one.
So, at what point did you know you wanted to be a performer? Let's go back to the beginning. Amoebas.
I was a tadpole. No, I came from a family. Everybody did something in my family. My aunt was a professional singer. My dad was a professional drummer. His brother was a violinist. He never played professionally, but my brother was a professional drummer. Mostly music, so the kind of writing was on the wall for me to kind of follow in everybody's footsteps. The problem was I never practiced. It took 5 years of piano lessons, and to this day I can't play chopsticks. Because, you know, I would play for an hour a week, which is when the teacher was there. And the teacher would look at me and go, "We're not getting anywhere." And this went on for 5 years. My poor parents, you know, just like, they never knew what hit them with the bills for the piano lessons. Because I was in the schoolyard playing ball with my boys. So I needed to find a performing art that required no discipline and no skill. And I found my way into a high school play, and I went, "Holy Jesus, Eureka, this is it." And the rest is history.
Was there a point where you felt, wow, I'm really starting to get some traction in my career here, like, because you were in...
Last Tuesday.
Last Tuesday.
But by Wednesday afternoon, it was gone.
Well, was it TV?
What are you people doing over there, man? Come on, man.
There's seats over there.
This seat's over here. You don't like me? Are you in the wrong hall? Are you waiting for Linda Hamilton? Sorry. I just couldn't resist. You know, I did play Hellboy, so. I'm a wise guy. My apologies.
Well,
Thank you.
was it like the voice work, or was it the on-screen stuff that you really wanted to focus on? Like, which did you love more?
I just wanted to be accepted. I mean, I just wanted to be, I wanted a sign. I wanted a sign that was going to be okay. You know, the last 10, 15 years have been phenomenal. But up to that point, there were these pockets of really, really cool shit would happen, and then nothing for 3 years. And then something really cool would happen, and then nothing for another 2.5 years. And it was like that for all the way up to when I was 50 years old. You know, after Beauty and the Beast, I didn't work, my phone didn't ring for 3 years. That job led to nothing. Thank you. I ain't complaining, mind you. I'm just, you know, yes. What was the question? I can't remember exactly the question. I'm just rambling here. Anybody want me to sign anything? I bet. Really good at that.
Well, what was your first big voice acting gig that you remember where you're like, this is really awesome?
Well, there was no voice career until a TV show called Beauty and the Beast. And the Beast, I kind of, hang on, I'm getting a phone call.
It's a great ringtone.
Are you all here? Want me to take a message? The Beast had a sort of, his voice wasn't my voice, his voice was a version of my voice. But it was, there was a little Beast stuff in there. And for some strange reason, it came to the attention of some voice people in Hollywood. And so I started to book, I think my first voice gig was for Dean Witter, which was a brokerage house. And I kept that job for 10 years. I did a couple of things for AT&T, I did a little stuff at Pennzoil, you know, I did a bunch of voiceover stuff, and then the voiceover people that were representing me opened an animation division that concentrated on cartoons and animated films. And my very first animated gig was for a show called Bonkers. Does anybody remember Bonkers? And Bonkers was a Warner Brothers show, and it was directed by a lady named Andrea Romano, who is the creme de la creme in voiceover direction. And she and I just became fast pals. And so pretty much whenever she was working, I was working. She did Teen Titans, did a whole lot of stuff. And every once in a while I would book like a movie, you know, like Titan AE. Those didn't, but I really dug, I mean, everybody in Hollywood wants to do voiceover work because you don't have to shave. You really don't even have to wear pants. You just show up, you read some shit, you get paid way too much money. You know?
Stay in school, kids. Stay in school.
You didn't get that from what I was saying?
So how do you prepare for a voice role that's different in the ways that you
Well, that's the really cool part about it is you don't. You know, you just let it rip. I mean, I guess there are actors that prepare, but I do that shit cold, man, you know. I most of the time don't even read the script before I come in, you know. I take a quick look at it, they're talking, and I'm like 2-3 pages ahead going, yeah, no, I hear you. All right, let's go. And part of what I love about it, I mean, I'm a guy who likes to work that way. I really like to work by the seat of my pants. I really like to work on a very kind of instinctive, unrehearsed, unstudied way. And in that particular milieu, particularly Saturday morning cartoons, that's appropriate. I mean, you know, your first instinct is usually the right one, and if every once in a while they'll tweak it or they'll say, well, we're looking for this, and you know, you'll alter it, but pretty much it's very result-oriented stuff, and it's very performance-oriented stuff without a lot of sitting around in a circle and like going, you know, I'm like a Leo, and like, you know, like what I see in this guy is like, there's certain kind of like, you know, there's a kind of like, there's a kind of a rubber and a road here. I don't know which one to take. Sorry. That was meant to be much funnier.
I was sitting next to a guy named Mike Mignola all weekend.
Oh, great.
And he tells me that you were saying you don't do a lot of preparation for your voice stuff, but he says your on-camera stuff, you are Mr. Thorough. And you were doing a movie with a guy that some people might remember by the name of Marlon Brando, where you were playing a role and you were blind the whole time, and no one realized that you were playing the guy as blind. Do you find that your subtlety sometimes, like people aren't, dude, this is an Easter egg, you're not getting the whole thing here?
Well, Marlon just never took the time to look at my fucking face. I had these lenses in, you know, that were like these milky colored lenses. But the only, I'm sorry, I said a bad word and you have a baby. She's asleep? Yeah. Anyway, these fucking lenses. Any other kids in the room? fuck that if you broke it. But they were opaque. You could not see out of them. I could not see my hand in front of my face. And I thought I was playing a character called the Sayer of the Law, who's basically the symbol of law and order and justice and everything like this. And I thought, justice, blind justice. Let me play, and I'm also like, you know, a vivisected kind of creation of animals, you know, meets man, this strange laboratory, you know, experiment gone awry. So I would have thought there would have been genetic defects to the guy, and I thought, blind, let me play justice blind. Wow, how fucking cool, man. And you know, they said, well, we have these lenses, and we have exactly what you're looking for, but you will be blind. And I went, you gotta try everything once, you know? And this was the dumbest fucking thing I've ever done. I put these things in, I had to be led everywhere. I hated taking them out, so I would just kind of sit there all day like this. Ron, we're ready for you. Who said that? Where are you? Okay, Ron, go stand on your mark. My mark? I didn't even know what country we were in. And it was horrific. It was the biggest bonehead move I ever pulled in my life. And so I was shooting the scene with Brando, which took 5 days to shoot. It should have only taken a day and a half, but this was such a clusterfuck that it was like. And he kept leaving the set whenever they were lighting, and then they'd call him back, and he'd come back, and he'd have to climb up onto this platform where it was me and his throne, and it was a very small platform, so he always had to like move me out of the way to get to his chair. And on this 5th day, I felt these two hands just grab my shoulders, and I was like this, and I must have turned my head, and I hear him go, Jesus Christ, what is that in your eyes? We've been shooting this fucking scene for 5 days. And the next thing he goes, wait a second. Are you playing him blind? And I went, hello? He goes, holy shit. John, the director, John Frankenheimer, we need to start again, man. I didn't know he was doing this. Changes everything. That's a true story.
Now you mentioned hitting it off with that voice director, and you're pals. When you start working with a guy like Guillermo del Toro, as soon as you meet him, you're like, you are the one.
Well, I don't know if I actually said that.
Well,
but no, I mean, it was instant karma with me and Guillermo. I mean, we went to dinner, which is both our strong suits because we're both really fat guys. You know? He calls me a closeted fat guy, and I tweeted out a couple of weeks ago, breaking news. He's out. So we just, I mean, this was the first time we met. It was as if by the time we finished dinner, it was as if we'd known each other for like 20 years. We were just old buds, you know, and it stayed that way. There was just this real kind of, we were both really relaxed around each other. Both kind of geeky, you know, film guys, you know, who, you know, just sort of dug each other's awkwardness, you know, and then we started working together. It just got better and better and better. And you know, I watched his family get born. He watched mine, and it was, you know, it's a wonderful relationship on top of the professional part of it.
So I remember when the first Hellboy movie came out, and there were countless interviews where Guillermo del Toro was just going to bat for you, and that he believes in you. He's like, he was the guy that I wanted to play Hellboy from the get-go. Now, when you're reading about these things, and he's saying that, Does it make it easier for you to work on set with him, or does it make you feel like you're under a lot more pressure?
Well, by the time you talking about Hellboy?
Yeah.
I mean, that was 7.5 years, you know. He had the project at one studio for 5 years. Could have made the movie 20 times over with Nick Cage, with The Rock. I mean, every week, you know, Universal would throw a different name at him and go, we'll greenlight the movie if you use this guy. And he'd go, okay, let's do it, man. And then he wouldn't show up for the meeting. And a few months would go by and I go, we noticed you weren't at that meeting with The Rock. He goes, yeah, you know, let me talk to you about Ron Perlman. and so after about 5 years, they went, you know, we just, here's your movie back, you know. We can't. Nothing against Ron, but you know, we're not spending $100 million on that dude. And then he made Blade 2, and Blade 2 like opened at $40 million on opening weekend. And everybody wanted to do the next Guillermo del Toro movie, and he decided, okay, if I'm ever going to get Hellboy made with Ron, it's going to be this week. And everybody who asked him, what do you want to do next? That's what he said. And one guy was, you know, dopey enough to go, I'll greenlight that. And that's how it happened, but it took him 7.5 years, and he literally could have made that movie, without exaggerating, 20 times over. So that was, I don't know why he was that loyal to any particular idea. I don't know of any other director who would have done that. You know, they want to make their movie, they make their movie. I even said to him, I said, Guillermo, I see what you're doing, but you're foolish, man. Make the movie, and you know, it's too good to not do. He goes, yes, my friend, you're right. I'm going to do it. I'm going to call Nick Cage now. When I worked with Nick a couple of years ago, I said, did Guillermo ever call you? He goes, Guillermo who? Anyway.
You guys want to get your questions ready?
True story.
I love the way you do
They're not all going to be
the
true,
Toro.
by the way. So I just want to qualify.
You.
First off, thank you for making so many things we love to watch.
You're welcome.
The City of Lost Children is one of my favorite movies of all time. I was wondering if I could press you for an anecdote from that, from the making of.
If you could what?
The City of Lost Children. I was
Yes.
wondering if I could press you for an anecdote from the making of The City of Lost Children.
The dog bit me. They don't, you know, and when you get outside the United States, man, things are different, you know. And so, you know, if you, in the script, have a scene that calls for, you know, a rabid dog, you know, they get a really, really good dog that's trained to act rabid and then cut. In France, they really got a fucking rabid dog. That's what it said in the script. I'm bleeding here.
It's good method acting, bleeding. It's good. With the foam hand.
Hi, Ron. First of all, I would like to say that you were really good Pacific Rim, and my question relates to that. Did you ever find your goddamn shoe?
I know where it is. It's in Guillermo's study. He takes all the best shit. He's got my coat and gun from Hellboy. He's got all the best stuff.
You, your hand way back there with the black sleeve. Stand up and yell.
All the way over here?
Yep.
I just wanted to ask you about your prosthetics. Most of the stuff I've ever seen you do requires a lot of prosthetics. Is it a very grueling process? And all that? And how, like, do you try to avoid those things now?
Yes. When I was doing I haven't done prosthetics since Hellboy 2, which is, you know, a few years ago now. But when I was doing all that mask work in the early part of my career, it was the only way I could really ever get work. I just got known for being a guy who liked to work, you know, hidden behind a mask, or in these kind of really abstract kind of characters. that required transformations. But having said that, the characters were so freaking cool. I mean, the Beast was so cool to play. The guy, the caveman, which was the first one, was so cool to play. It's so filled with, the exercise of making a movie, a serious movie about what it might have been like 80,000 years ago, when fire was not something that anybody knew about except as a possession. That was a trippy movie. They're still teaching that movie in anthropology classes. Name of the Rose was a trippy character to work on, Beauty and the Beast. And then, of course, the character of Hellboy. And, each time I was playing those characters, I felt, truly honored to be able to be the guy that got to play those people. And so the process of putting on the makeup, which is, objectively speaking, very long and very involved, was never a burden to me. It was never, as I got a little older, I started to get a little cranky. So now I'm only going to put it on for Hellboy 3. I'm not saying there's a Hellboy 3, but if there were.
Seriously, my penis just moved a bit.
There's kids in the room.
Well, I didn't swear about it, I was using medical terms.
Is that a medical term?
I think so. Now, okay, you talked about Quest for Fire. I'm going to get to you, young man, in just a second. But there was no dialogue in that movie. And when you're taking acting lessons, they always make you do these exercises where you're communicating and passing on ideas without words. And when you were doing that role, was it like a really huge sense of accomplishment, or was it just a constant grind of, I thought I did communicate that with my arms?
Well, the funny thing is because it was the very first movie I ever did, I didn't really have anything to compare it to. So, to me this was just like, the whole exercise of making a movie was new to me. And in this particular one, because there was no dialogue, but each scene was very specifically written out in the script. We knew what we had to do. In order to arrive at it, it wasn't as if we were throwing each other our lines, as you do in a heavily dialogue movie. We had to do these improvisations until we were all gelling and performing the scene in a way that was interesting and what the script called for and true to the storytelling. So it was more of an improvisational kind of a thing. I came to find out later when I started working more conventionally that was like a trippy introduction into the movie business, is to actually work essentially on a silent film, where you're just working out the action, and the clues of how that's supposed to unfold are way different than they would be with dialogue.
I love that movie. Dude.
Alright, so we all know how much you love to act, with all your senses, since you have so much complications acting blind. How would you react if someone came up to you and gave you a part where you're mute, or didn't have just say mute? Like, would you take it? How would you?
Dude, I've done interviews where I did the exact same thing you just did. Don't worry about it.
Would you like me to repeat it?
There are tons of scenes you do in movies and TV shows where there's no dialogue, where it's all just acted out. So if you're playing a character that communicates other than verbally, you're basically doing something you're used to doing anyway, which is communicating the character by behavioral, which is basically what acting is. I mean, figuring out who the guy is and then what the behavior is that depicts you know. So dialogue is useful, but not essential. What? Pick another sense, because that's.
Really sense? All right.
I could act without smelling. What else you got? We already established my acting without seeing. That was fucked up.
All right, deaf.
That deaf?
Say what?
There'd be a lot of that, I think.
You, young lady with the cane.
Ron, my heart.
Yeah.
You asked about your Wooden Lakes project. Is that progressing as you would like?
Well, I'm still planning on shooting it in January, but I'm still looking for the key actor. I have about 75% of my cast. I have some great people, which I can't name yet because it's just not been announced. But I have my cinematographer, I have my locations, I have the money. But I won't do the movie unless I have this particular actor. It needs to be somebody who can give a killer performance because it's a rather complex.
I'm thrilled to see you.
Thank you. I'm kind of curious to see what it feels like to you know, give other people shit for a change.
You with the red circly thing hat.
Okay, Sons of Anarchy. How did you feel about Clay's true colors coming out when he went from anti-hero in the beginning to like full-blown villain, just trying to cover his tracks and constantly like caught?
He definitely took some turns that I didn't see coming. You know, just Ron didn't see coming. And truth be told, I've said this before, so it's no big secret, he really became very uncomfortable to play starting in season 4. He started doing things that I even bristled at. That I thought he was crossing the line. And my whole compact with Clay was that I needed to like the guy in order to play him. I need to like everything that all the people that I play, even if they're just, you know, horrific characters. There's got to be something about their psyche that I admire. And so I had a lot of talks with Kurt about it, and he told me how to get through it. But, you know, it became very uncomfortable when he started to make those turns, and has remained so because now he's paying for all those things. He's paying for them in a way that he's kind of like no longer in control. He was a guy with such a type A personality, such, you know, he set the agenda, and now he's lucky if he's even part of the agenda, where we find him in season 6. So it's been a really uncomfortable ride for Clay, for me.
You.
Me?
Fan Expo shirt.
What was your experience working on Drive?
Super. Just super. Great cast, unbelievable cast. Incredible director, Nick Refn. Real filmmaker with a capital F, you know. One of only a handful of guys that is as brilliant as that. You know, Guillermo's in that group, and Ridley Scott's in that group. Paul Thomas Anderson is in that group. But he's the real deal, and you know it. So you're on the set and you feel like you're kind of playing basketball with Michael Jordan. You know, you better take your game up, you know, to as many notches as you can take it up. Of course, Gosling is the cat's pajamas. And talking to all you ladies out there. Albert Brooks is a huge hero of mine, so to be able to sort of be the Lou Costello to his Bud Abbott, you know, the Hardy to his Laurel, that was cool.
Like you mentioned Albert Brooks, when when you see Albert Brooks playing like a villainous character like that, it's almost like, I didn't expect that. And you being a fan of his, where you're like, wow, I'm amazed at the chops you have. You're scary.
I was a little intimidated on that set. I mean, there were some people in there that, you know, well, Albert was somebody that who I knew about before I was a professional actor. I mean, you know, he was way larger than life to me when I was a young guy. And
I'm being told to wrap it up.
okay.
I have time for one more question? One more? Okay. I saw the guy.
Who's got the best question in the house?
The foam hand guy was waving it around for a long time, so.
You'll be disappointed.
No pressure, pal. No pressure.
I was wondering your relationship with Charlie Hunnam on Sons of Anarchy is the most pivotal.
Who's got a better question? You know, I can't talk about Charlie, man. The shit that Jax is doing to Clay is just fucked up. And I'm taking it very personal. Huh?
It's like to work with him on Pacific Rim, but not actually have any scenes together.
We didn't have any scenes together, so we weren't really working. The only guy I worked with on Pacific Rim was Charlie Day. So, but Charlie Hunnam was a very good-looking guy, I'll say.
All right, we got that little dude. We'll make it quick.
What was your favorite part of playing Cannibal Crown, and are you going to be in
My favorite thing about playing Hannibal Chow was started with his name and then went to every other thing about him. I just loved playing Hannibal Chow. I loved his shoes. I loved his glasses. I loved the way he just was decked out. I loved the humor of the guy. And if there's a Pacific Rim 2, I haven't been asked to be in it, but I would sure like to be.
Ron Perlman, everybody.